Hi, welcome to YABasic, where we avoid our adult responsibilities and read YA fantasy. I'm one of your hosts, Deadly, and I'm a sucker for some spicy romance.
And I'm your other host, Dani, and I despise the friends to lovers trope. Light spoiler warning, in this episode we discuss tropes found in the Harry Potter series, Percy Jackson series, Hunger Games series, Grishaverse, Lunar Chronicles, Divergent, Percy Jackson, Shadowhunters and Sarah J Maas universe, as well as Aurora Rising. If this is something you'd rather avoid, we suggest you proceed with caution, but they are very light spoilers, so don't worry too much.
Yeah, it's just chatting about what, tropes we see in them.
Yeah.
That's what we're discussing this week, is tropes commonly found in YA fantasy. Definitely after you start reading them, you can start to spot them popping up and up.
You start seeing a pattern, and if you're a well-seasoned YA fantasy reader like me and Deadly, then you will definitely form a habit of pretending that you know exactly what's going to happen the whole way through. And
completely.
yeah, 9 times out of 10, you will be correct. But
Yes.
we read fantasy, YA fantasy, for the comfort. We don't read it for the
Yeah,
for the shock factor.
we are hardly ever surprised. But that's why we love it. We love, honestly, the minute I can smell that enemies to lovers cropping up.
Yeah, I think we've both gotten to a point where we definitely pick up YA fantasy books because of the tropes that they are giving off, rather than, we've heard good things about this but we don't know anything about it, we're just going to go in blind. We have definitely started going, we like this trope, we don't like this trope, we're going to read this one because it's spicy and it has a lot of passion, because it's enemies to lovers, and we're going to avoid that one because it's a bit soppy and mushy and fluffy, and it's friends to lovers, and we want to avoid that.
Yeah, we don't fuck with that. But so we'll start with discussing our favourite romance trope, which we have mentioned just now, is enemies to lovers.
Woo!
Oh, what a good trope, honestly.
The best trope.
It's I think it's the raw passion that it is, going from people who hate each other's guts to people who love each other's guts so much, and it's that transition that we love, that kind of character development.
Do you know, when you read enemies to lovers, you don't read it because the relationship is necessarily the most healthy. You read it because the tension and the build-up is just unmatched. Like, there's nothing better than, the sexual tension or the romantic tension building up between two characters, and then, bang, explodes. And they just have the most fiery, passionate moment, whether that's very passionate and they end up, having sex, or it's just a very passionate kiss and you think, yes! And the serotonin that we get from those moments is just, it's unmatched. It is unmatched.
Yeah, completely. It's the build-up. I saw this tweet and it was there's nothing else, two characters, sword fighting, and one of them being to die by your hand would be a pleasure. I'm like, oh my god.
That is it.
Oh.
Or there's nothing better than when they're getting nose to nose in an argument, and they're getting each other's, breathing each other's air, and then one of them goes, why don't you just shut up? And then the other one goes, make me. And then you go, oh my god, I just can't cope. My whole body just shuts down because I love it that much.
Literally, just buzzing behind the eyes. We have no brain, no thoughts. We're yes,
sometimes,
this is everything I need right now.
Sometimes I have to close the book and put the book down just because I'm having a mental breakdown about the thing that I've just read, because it's that good. That's the way that enemies to lovers books make me feel. They make me feel brilliant.
Yeah. It's part of the exhilaration, I think. It's you know how it's gonna go, but you're here for the ride, and you're here for the spice and the little jibes at each other, or the outright hate for each other, but then that all stems from a place of admiration or jealousy.
You know, there's nothing. Do you know what my favourite? So this is, I'm bringing it back to fanfiction because obviously it's me. I'm going to always bring it back to fanfiction. So for example, when I read fanfiction, one of my favourite couples to read about is James and Lily Potter from Harry Potter. And the thing that I love the most that people, it's like a recent thing really that people have started writing, is like when one of them's jealous of the other one. And I love that. So like the enemies to lovers, so they've got really no right to be jealous of the other person, but they are. And then that ends up for them having an argument about it. And they're like, oh, you don't have any right. And he goes, I know. And then it like explodes into something that's like, they're like, oh, I love you. Exactly. Well, I love you. And then they're like, what? That's just the best for me. I don't even know if I just made sense then, but like, do you know?
No, I get it. It's like that, the heat of the moment, and like,
like
that kind of rivals, but also they respect each other on a deep down level, but also are jealous.
Yeah. Someone's like, what's your problem? And the other person's like, I saw Elizabeth draped all over you today. Was it nice? And they're like, well, why do you care? And they're like, I don't care. And they're like, obviously you do care. That's just the best. If I ever wrote a YA fantasy book, I would definitely write it as enemies to lovers. That is 100%.
Yeah, completely. I think compared to all other tropes, I love it so much. And that's probably what, we're both very similar. We have very similar taste in tropes, I think. Because we'll get onto it later of the things we don't like, but we both love enemies to lovers, and a few tropes we cross over on. But I can't imagine thinking of a YA story and not including it, because it's the one thing that I associate with the genre the most.
Yeah, because it's a classic, and you know what, it doesn't get old. I don't think I've ever thought, oh, I'm bored of enemies to lovers, because it's different. You can do so many different things with it. Like, what are some examples of things we've got? This is a good segue to talk about couples, because we can give different examples of how it's been used in
completely.
YA fantasy.
So, you already touched on James and Lily, but also Feyre and Rhys from ACOTAR. They definitely start not liking each other, and that is a really complex one, because as the story goes on, kind of you understand why Rhys does what he does, and Feyre's just
Feyre. we know all about Feyre because it's from her point of view, but we know what her struggles, but we didn't know Rhys's, and obviously that causes tension between the two of them because they assume that they know each other really well, but they don't. So it's really like, that's kind of a bit of that's kind of the classic, isn't it? They misunderstand each other, and it gets lost in translation when it comes out in like frustration. And I think that's Feyre and Rhys are Faceand is a good example of that. Sorry, I forgot what their ship name was. I was like, Faris?
How could you?
Faris?
How could you forget the ship name, Dani?
I know, how could I? How terrible of me. So like, you've got that one, that sort of comes from a place of like misunderstanding and frustration, when then you've got like the likes of like Jude and Cardan from the Folk of Air series.
Folk of Air, yes.
Or the Cruel Prince books. And that comes from a place of rivalry. So you've got Cardan, who's born into being a royal, and then you've got Jude, who wants to fit into the Fey world. She's human, so she needs to fight more, like, harder to get to where she wants to be.
She has to do everything 2 times more than he has to, and he doesn't have to do anything, and he's already above her.
He doesn't want his station, but she's desperate for it, so there's like that rivalry there, and that's what causes the tension. So that's a bit like of a different take on it, but it's kind of similar. It has the same principles, because obviously they don't like each other. There's a bit of a misunderstanding between the two, because obviously Cardan's a little bit aloof. So's Jude, because she thinks
just a tad.
Just a bit aloof. She's quite secretive. She doesn't trust Faye. So that's a bit of a interesting dynamic.
Oh, I love Cardan so much.
I love Cardan. Cardan's a like broody boy, perfect broody boy.
Complete broody boy, and like
broody boy.
Oh, his character development is also chef's kiss.
If you don't know what we mean by broody boy, Deadly and I did an episode called You're Thirsty. If you feel like listening to it, it's not our best, it's not our finest work, but it's there, where we talk about like boyfriends, book boyfriends, and the names and the categories that they go in. And Broody Boy is one of the categories, but you should listen to the episode if you want to know the rest of them.
Yeah, but just bear in mind we did need some hydration that day.
Yes,
so...
it's thirsty. You will leave needing a pint of water to drink.
Completely. And another couple that is enemies to lovers, or we hope, is Cassian and Nestor, which is quite topical because Court of Silver Flames has just come out.
Yes, it came out yesterday. We are filming this the day after A Court of Silver Flames came out, so we haven't read the book. I've started it. Deadly's still waiting for hers to arrive because
mine's lost in the post.
Royal Mail
postman
Royal Mail
is
really
a fan of Sarah J. Maas. He's stolen a book.
But yeah, we're only about 100 pages, so we don't know what's going to happen in the book. But we hope there's going to be enemies.
We can see it happening. We can see it coming.
We hope so.
Completely.
But yeah, I don't know. Like, this is sort of like a. Is this really? To be fair, we've put this in this category, but now I'm thinking about it. Is it enemies to lovers? Because the only reason that they're enemies to lovers is, I guess, that one's human and one's.
Yeah. I guess it's kind of abrasive, but Cassian really respects Nestor, so I don't know if that is...
He's a bit of a simp for her rather than...
Yeah.
She's just...
She's in enemy territory.
Yeah.
He just wants
cold.
The best.
He's like, please, love me. Maybe that wasn't the right couple to put in, but we'll see. We might be proved wrong. But yeah, maybe we put that in the wrong category. Rowaelin from... Thorn from Throne of Glass. Wow, I'm really mixing up everything today.
Too many TH words.
Yeah,
it's all bloody together.
So Rowan and Aelin from Throne of Glass. See, this is another one that's a bit different. It's like a different take on it, but it's like we've got the class. So obviously, when they met, it was under false pretenses, really. I wouldn't get too much into it, but they were like, they were almost pitted against each other because they were on a bit like opposite sides, weren't they? Opposite sides. Completely. So that's like the classic. Yeah. Oh, like I automatically hate you because we don't believe the same things.
We're on different sides. Yeah, completely.
Yeah, so that's where sort of that tension came from, but that's hot. We all know that scene. If you've read it, we won't say what it is, but we know the scene when they first met and some things happened.
We do.
And it's a classic. That's when I was like, oh my god, the tension. I was like, oh. Like something happens. I won't spoil it just in case you haven't read it, but there's something that happens, and I recommend that you read Throne of Glass just for that bit.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. So, some other tropes that we do like and that are common is kind of similar but very different in its energy is star-crossed lovers / forbidden love. So again, these are people who can't be together, but we know they're going to end up together.
Yes.
So, classic example, very standard YA example is Edward and Bella from Twilight. Like human, vampire, two different worlds, shouldn't work, it's forbidden, it's all kind of, secrecy in the woods, and that's kind of what we love. Yeah,
so like star-crossed lovers, I think the perfect example of star-crossed lovers is obviously Romeo and Juliet, because that's really where
where the phrase comes from.
Yes, that's where the phrase comes from, because of Shakespeare. I was like, who wrote it? Shakespeare.
Good old Shakespeare. Shaky P.
Yeah,
he's in our top releases of 2021. Shakespeare.
P, thank you. Thank you for the classic trope. But yeah, you've got this. They're forbidden to be with each other because they're from different backgrounds.
Houses.
It's a classic. So yeah, another example of this is like if you've read the Vampire Academy series or watched the film. If you've only watched the film, I recommend you read the books. But Rose and Dimitri. That's sort of an age gap type of thing that kind of like puts a bit of star-crossed lovers because someone's slightly older than the other one, so it's a bit frowned upon. So they have to keep it a bit secret. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Sometimes maybe you have to keep your relationship a bit of a secret because you may get in a lot of trouble for it. Maybe that's like why. that's a star-crossed lovers example. I guess that's
definitely.
Yeah. And
I think the secrecy is what really sells it. Is that it's the fear that they might be caught at any time. Yeah, completely.
Yeah, the what if they get caught? Oh my god! Like, what, that one kiss might have to last them for a year because they can't be together and they can't see each other. And I think that's the appeal of of the star-crossed lovers trope, is that it's like forbidden and it's like naughty and you shouldn't be doing it, and it's like gets your heart racing in a different way, maybe in a different way to enemies to lovers, in a way that it's like, ooh, I like the tension of the enemies to lovers, but this is like, oh, I'm scared that they're going to get caught type of like heart racing, which is...
And also like there's also the kind of wanting what you can't have. So I think Emma and Jules from Shadowhunters is a really good example, because they straight up are told like, you guys cannot fall in love, like you just can't, and they're like nervous laughter,
bitch, you thought.
They're like, well, funny story.
You can tell us what to do, but we're not going to listen. Yeah, that's sort of like the whole premise of... To be honest, I don't really think that's a spoiler, because that's the whole premise of those books.
That's the whole premise of those books.
It's a forbidden
it literally says on the dust jacket, I think it says like their love is forbidden.
This is the only time, because we'll go into this later, but this is the only time I've actually kind of liked the friendship to lovers trope.
Yes,
because obviously they are friends because they're parabatai, they're best friends. And I normally, we'll go into it later, because I hate friendship to lovers trope. And I'm sorry if it's your favourite. It is not for me. It's just not for me. But that's the only time I actually quite liked it.
Yeah, Emma and Jules. I loved it. I was surprised, because I am the same. It's not my fave trope, friends to lovers. But with Emma and Jules, it was written so well. Yeah, and I don't
know, because Jules wasn't my favourite character, but I didn't want him to be with anybody else, so I think that right. Normally, if I don't like it, it's because I want him to be with someone else, but this one didn't.
With them, it's kind of a different thing than friends to lovers, because they liked each other before they became parabatai. They kind of became parabatai to stay together because of the war.
Yeah, well, I think
Emma was like,
I'm
gonna leave.
Well, Emma was like, yeah, let's do this. It's a really good idea. And Jules was like,
maybe not. Yeah,
maybe not. But yeah, it's perfect example of star-crossed lovers. The whole book's like that. So if to be honest, if you are a fan of star-crossed lovers, then we do recommend the Dark Artifices trilogy by Cassandra Clare. You don't actually have to read any of Cassandra's other books to understand the book series.
No, it goes into the lore in it anyway. So
yeah, so we definitely recommend that you pick those up, because we thoroughly enjoyed them, and they are classic YA type books. It's urban fantasy, so they're very entertaining, and yeah, it's a really great like romance, but it's also fantasy as well. It's great. The storyline's fantastic, and there's loads of other characters in there that are sick. Like,
True, I love
cool.
True.
Like all of the Blackthorns are amazing.
The Blackthorns are amazing. We have so diverse the cast as well. At some point we will do a Shadowhunters episode, but it will be 75 hours long.
Yeah, it's diverse. And, yeah, it's amazing.
It's great. We love it.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely pick that up. If star-crossed lovers or forbidden love is your favourite trope, then we recommend that book for you. That series.
Yes. Shall we move on to our next trope?
Yes. Let's do it.
So we have as our next trope soulmates. Our first note under this trope makes me absolutely cry laugh, because it's Jacob and Renesmee from Twilight.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the classic soulmates. Obviously, you imprinted on my daughter. You named my daughter after the Loch Ness monster. That classic. That classic scene. Oh,
that twist. Honestly, when I read that book and I was like, he what?
I know.
He imprinted?
I know. See, like, obviously, I used to really be obsessed with Twilight when I was younger. Mm-hmm. And I was to be honest, I'm going to get some hate for this, because when I say this, but I really, really did like Jacob. But I think that's mostly because of the films, and he was really hot.
Say the Lord.
But
no.
I wasn't team Jacob in the fact that I thought that Bella and Jacob should be together. I was like, he's really hot and he's a werewolf, and that's like cool. More of the fact that he was a good person, because I don't really think he was that great. To be honest, the whole relationship Twilight aren't it for me. The toxicity is a bit
all
too
of them.
much, but everyone's hot.
I'm team therapy for all of them. Like,
yeah, team therapy for Bella and Eclipse, 100%.
Oh my god, Bella and Eclipse! Wow, I think I blocked that in my memory.
I really love how Jacob's form of therapy was, Bella, where the hell have you been, Loca? I just love that. We stand Jacob for that. Do you know what that like cured my depression? Him saying that.
Oh wow, yeah, that's our advice.
Anyway,
is go to Jacob for therapy.
We've really gone off on a tangent, but yeah, Jacob.
That's all this podcast is.
Jacob and Renesmee, classic soulmates.
That's an example of where we don't love it. Where we're like, this is a tricky one.
It's just an example of it. Like, we understood sort of what Stephanie Meyer was doing there. Ish.
Yeah.
But not really, because she was...
It was a choice.
A baby, but... Yeah, it's more the fact that we're getting at is that they're soulmates because they are meant to be together. Like, he imprinted on her, and it's like written in the stars that they are going to be together because of that bond that they have. Maybe that was not a great choice to pick.
I honestly, it just makes me laugh. So I'm just glad we've got it on there because it kills me.
I feel like another book series that we haven't read, but I feel like I know that there's a couple in there is the Raven Boys, the Raven Cycle books.
Oh, okay. Yes, I've heard of them.
I could be wrong, but I feel like there's like it's her soulmate. She's destined to be with that person.
Yeah.
I think that happens in that. I wouldn't know any of the characters' name. I know that someone's called Blue. I think the main character's called Blue, but I don't know any. Wouldn't know the love interest. Cute. I haven't read the book, but I feel like that's got a good example of it. I've put James and Lily down again, but then again, I'm saying this from a fanfiction perspective because we don't know really anything about James and Lily. But I think it was suggested that they were soulmates because of their Patronuses matching. Yes, I know that doesn't necessarily mean that they're soulmates, but I think from the pretense of that they didn't get on to begin with, that they never really admitted their feelings until later on, but the fact that their Patronuses still matched and complemented each other kind of suggests to me that they're soulmates.
Oh, completely. Yeah. And I definitely think another take on the soulmate thing is it happens a lot in Sarah J. Maas's books is just take away soul and just have a mate.
Yes. Perfect. Why don't we lead with that one? That would have been a good one to lead with and not the Renesmee Jacob one.
It's fine. They just have to get through the Renesmee to get to the sweet, sweet Sarah J. Maas.
True, because that's what we had to do. We had to suffer through Renesmee Jacob to get to the Sarah J. Maas mates. But to then, again,
completely. The
mate thing is... Because in Crescent City, do they have mates?
I don't know if they do.
I don't know. No, because is anyone Fae? Oh, stupid question. Of course they are.
Well,
Bryce
they're like
is half.
Yeah. But it's like not as high fantasy. It's more urban.
Yeah, but
I don't know if I can't remember anyone being mates or anything happening mate-wise.
No, okay. I don't think they have mates in that one, but we could be wrong. Please.
I mean, yeah. If we read it in the middle of a pandemic last year, so
we speed read it in the middle of a pandemic, so we're not sure. But we don't think that there's mates in that one.
So yeah, it happens a lot in her books that there are kind of these like destined mates, and once you kind of find that attraction, it's like you're together.
Yeah. We won't say the actual couples.
But... Yeah. We maybe might have said the couples, then realised that we said light spoilers, and those are major spoilers.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, but if you like the soulmates, then you're definitely going to like Sarah's books, because it happens a lot. With some redacted characters who we're not going to say redacted.
Bleep, yeah. And even because I will talk about it later, but I finished Aurora Rising today, and there's a character in that has a kind of mate story trope, which I love.
Yeah.
I am already in love with.
And it's done really well in that the fact that it's not it's not, I know, okay, so I don't think that Sarah does that in her books. I'm not saying that, that's not what I'm suggesting, but the whole way through it's like, even though he has that mated, but I think a good example of this is that they sort of missed that in the Twilight books, is that I feel like Stephanie Meyer should have been like, oh, there's definitely a choice, you can only have a choice, whereas it's sort of like they had to be together because they were mates. But in Aurora Rising, Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman do it very well, and they're like,
oh yeah,
the character reiterates the fact that you don't need to be in love with me, don't worry, no pressure, I just have to tell you because I feel compelled to, because it's a very important thing to me to let you know that this is happening, but this is no pressure on you to make a decision based on that.
Yeah.
And that's what I really like about that.
So good. And like, it gives me so much more respect for the character as well. I was like, yes, consent.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I sort of guess that happens in ACOTAR as well, with the characters where they are soulmates or whatever, mates, when they don't tell them about that.
No,
that causes a bit of tension, doesn't it? That they don't.
Yeah, and also it gives them an opportunity to find out how they feel. In their actual mind.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I like both of the ways, sort of, like for different reasons. I like the fact that they didn't tell them to not feel the pressure because obviously it's a very scary thing, and then I like that they did tell them because it's an important thing. It's like a life-changing experience, and it's like quite physical, so it was quite nice for them to have that discussion and it be healthy and open for once.
Completely. Oh my god, it was so refreshing.
Yeah. Twilight, that's not how you do it. Take notes.
I mean, Twilight, just in general.
Yikes, yeah.
Yeah, maybe don't stand at the end of your crush's bed, watch them sleep.
No.
That's our PSA.
We don't recommend that.
It just won't end well.
No, it will not.
Speaking of things we don't recommend,
we're now going to get to the passionate, part of the podcast where I go on a rant about how much I hate friends to lovers and the friends to lovers trope. Now, if you listened to our YABasic episode, you will know that I ranted and raved about how much I hate a certain friends to lovers couple from a certain series called the YABasic.
Yeah.
I won't name names.
We named them enough.
But if you've seen that episode, then you'll know who it is. And I hate it. It's just cringe.
Yep.
I guess can we say the names?
Yeah, I think we can, because it's kind of...
Yeah, okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, we'll say the names. Because if you've read the first book, then you'll get the impression from it that what's going to happen anyway. But
and like, even from the Shadow and Bone promo images, you can see it.
Yeah. So, obviously, you've got... in YABasic, there's Mel and Alina, and they're friends. They've been friends since childhood, and there's some romantic things going on between them, which I do not like. It just does.
We also just dislike Mel.
It just does nothing for me. I'm sorry. The thought of like settling with someone that you've known your whole life genuinely terrifies me. But that's just a personal preference. Sometimes people do fall in love with their best friends, and it works out for the best.
Yeah, I just think the reason we read YA is to get excited and invested in characters and see character growth and see really interesting things. And with Friends to Lovers, it just feels so homely. Is that the right, like...
And it's like, they obviously both feel the same way about each other, but they don't tell each other. And I always think, oh my god, it's so obvious that you love each other. So obvious.
Literally. And like, just speak to each other.
I know, and like some occasions it's like everyone in the room's like, Jesus Christ, can you just kiss already? And then they're like, ew, no. And you think, why have you said that? Like...
Literally. That was your chance.
Yeah, that was your chance.
Oh my god.
To like get with the person that you've been pining over all this time for years. But you know what I'm saying? I don't like friends to lovers. I don't like, it's the childhood friends to lovers I don't like.
True. Yeah.
It's because, you know, like I don't mind a slow burn with the fact that they meet,
True.
then they become friends, and that friends turns to like companionship and like love.
Yeah.
There's not necessarily instant attraction, or sometimes there is instant attraction, and then that they become friends, and then they become lovers. I don't mind that. That friends to lovers isn't too bad.
Yeah.
It is just purely the old, like the childhood friends to lovers that I do not enjoy.
Yeah. I think what started my dislike of it is Gale and Katniss in Hunger Games.
Perfect example. Yeah.
And also, like, what I find a lot with Friends to Lovers is the male character tends to feel like he owns the female character and has, like, a say in what she does because he's known her for so long and has the moral high ground over her, which just is not my jam. And that is the Gale, that war criminal.
The war criminal Gale. I know exactly what you just said. Like that, you've hit the nail on the head with that. Like, when they go, oh, well, you shouldn't do that, and you think, don't tell me what to do. I just have a thing where it's like, if people, like, especially men, I'm sorry, if men are telling like a female what to do, I'm like, no, don't you fucking dare tell her what to do. And I'll get so defensive, it just gets my back up. So like, it's like a running theme. Like that's what Mal's like in
yeah, completely.
Shadow and Bone, and he's just like, it's like he wasn't interested, and then he was interested because she got all interesting, and I was like, oh.
And it's like, you've changed, I've known you for so long. But I was like, no, people are allowed to change. That's the whole point of, like, character.
Yeah, and then it's, like, similar with Gale when she comes back from, like, the Hunger Games, and she's, like, you know, got murdered by, and she had to murder other kids, and he's like, ooh, you kissed Peter on TV. How dare you betray me like that? And I'm like, you weren't even dating. Like,
but you were dating.
You were friends. Like, get back off. And he's like, how dare you betray me?
You were hunting partners.
And she's like, sorry. And I'm like, why are you apologising, Katniss? How dare you?
Do not apologise. You did what you had to do to survive,
it irritates me. Like, fuck me. Why would you even pick Gale? So whiny.
Literally.
There was some whiny, yeah.
Oh, and he just gets worse and worse.
Yeah. And then another prime example of it is freaking Simon and Clary from The Mortal Instruments. Jesus. I have never...
Not the TV show making that canon.
It was canon in the books.
Yeah, but like us having to see them in that boat.
Oh yeah, like in the show where they like had sex, that was gross.
Had sex.
That was
like
gross.
They never did that in the books.
No, they didn't. It was kind of PG in the books. I could manage. Well, still didn't like it, but I could manage it a little bit more in the books.
It wasn't great.
But it's gross. Like I just like, because I know in like the case of the books that one party isn't interested in the other, and it's sort of like they're being used. And
yeah.
I didn't like that. That doesn't sit right with me. Like I don't like
especially when it's a character you love.
Yeah, and like definitely. I don't like it when like friendships can potentially be ruined, because I think especially with Simon and Clary, their friendship was so solid, and I thought, how nice is it to have? This is like a criticism I have of the Mortal Instruments, and I don't really have a lot of them, to be fair, because but this is like a criticism, is that I love a good healthy female-male friendship, and I don't like it when it's tainted with the romance, and I feel like that did happen a bit, and it hurts me, because I think, oh god, they're best friends, and why would you want anything to come between them? Why would you want that? So why would you pursue it? Especially like that's an example of it where it doesn't really work out, but like 9 times out of 10, if they're friends to lovers, then it's gonna work out, but in that case it doesn't, and especially when it doesn't work out, I think that's when I don't like it. I think, oh great, that's like all of your friendship years like gone now.
Yeah, completely. And
you mourn that in itself, you mourn the friendship in as well, and that's kind of something that I just don't like.
It's a very tricky one to read, and also I feel like it's just very pedestrian. I'm gonna say
it is pedestrian.
It's kind of, I feel like I'm reading a Mills and Boone, or like,
not
even Mills and Boone, because that's spicy.
It is tame.
It's just, I'm reading a Mary Berry cookbook. I'm like, oh, okay, there you add the sugar, sure.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, we'll have a 2.5 kids and a dog, and we live in a white picket fence house, and I'm like, oh, okay. No, I want sword fights and like let's punch bad guys in the face together and live life on the edge. That's why I read like YA fantasy. But obviously, if you like the Friends to Lovers, because you can relate. Oh yeah,
we're not bashing anyone who loves it. Yeah.
No, because I certainly see the appeal. Like I certainly see the appeal of that. If I had a childhood best friend that I ended up marrying, I'd be very happy, I guess. But I don't have that, so I can't really relate. Do you know?
No. I can't imagine being with any of my childhood friends. No.
Not could I. Jesus Christ.
No. Another trope, which it relates to this, is something that we really dislike, and we see it all the time, is a love triangle.
If you write love triangles in your YA fantasy book in 2021, sort yourself out. It's overdone, and I'm sorry, if you like a love triangle, I am bashing you at this point. I am judging you, because get a life. Who likes that? Someone's always getting hurt.
It's so frustrating.
One person...
Yeah, no one is ever happy.
No one's ever happy. Like, you always... And the other two people that end up together always feel guilty about being together because that other person's been left out. And there's nothing worse. Nothing on this God's green earth. It's always 9 times out of 10... 1 girl, 2 boys.
Yeah.
Always. It's always the mysterious bad boy, then the lovely homegrown best friend boy. You always know which one it's going to be. That's the problem I've got. You always know she's picking the bad boy, because obviously you always pick the bad boy.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting and exciting, and like we said in the Friends to Lovers, the mundane life doesn't appeal to everyone, and 9 times out of 10 it doesn't appeal to people. So you always know that they're going to pick the bad boy, and it's predictable. You know what's going to happen. Literally. It's boring. You slog through it, and for what? To get to the same conclusion every single time. It doesn't add any spice. It just makes me mad.
Every time I see one forming, I'm like, again. Although the only time I have enjoyed a love triangle is, again, in the Lady Midnight series, which we mentioned with Jules and Emma. There is a love triangle in that, which is actually a love triangle, because my issue I always have is it's not a love triangle, it's a love corner.
Yeah. Because
it's a girl in the corner and 2 boys facing her.
Yes.
Whereas in this one, they're all looking at each other. Yes. If you get my drift.
Yes. You know what? You've hit the nail on the head. If love triangles were actual love triangles, like... Mm-hmm. The sexuality was fluid, so like everyone was getting with everyone, that would make it so much more interesting, and that is what Cassie does well in that book. You've literally completely hit it on the head. You know what? Yeah,
like that's why I love it. That's why I love it, because it adds the spice that it's missing.
Yeah, you've literally just hit the nail on the head. Love corners are not it. Love triangles, on the other hand. Yes, that's spicy.
Exactly.
We like.
We want arrows going every way. We don't want arrows just pointing at the girl.
No, if you're going to write a YA fantasy book, don't be a corner. Be a triangle. Don't do boy boy girl or boy girl girl. Do boy girl 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 boy girl girl. Boy, girl, girl, boy. Girl and boy all together. No one at all. Maybe just mix it up a bit, make it a bit more interesting.
Yes, that's what we need.
Join the lines. Don't leave one side open.
Yes,
embrace
absolutely.
It.
That is our PSA for this episode. Yeah. Is please.
It's such a good way. More... Yeah, we could
it's so good.
To include polyamorous relationships, to make those relationships seen, and to introduce bisexual.
Completely.
Think, that's just what we need more of, and that is something that does happen in the Infernal Devices. So you should,
which we love.
Not the Infernal Devices.
No, Dark Artifices.
Not quite the Infernal Devices, but it had the potential, but they didn't do it.
Yeah.
But the Dark Artifices, it does. So definitely pick up the Dark Artifices if you want to see an actual love triangle done properly.
We're such Dark Artifices stans.
I know.
It's
quite underrated, best. People don't talk about it, and I really enjoyed these books. But
I loved them, and that's the book tour we went to. So we represented.
That's the book tour we went to, and that's really where we started talk. That's when we first became
friends. That's where YABasic was born.
Yeah, that's where YABasic was born. So we definitely recommend you read it. The birthplace of YABasic. Anyway, let's do some more examples of love triangles that we don't like. That's really good. So, one that I don't like, personally, from Percy Jackson, is Percy, Annabeth, Rachel, Elizabeth Dare. Now, we can argue that this isn't a love triangle, because obviously it was just a bit of a misunderstanding. But the doubt that Annabeth had did not do it for me. I did not enjoy it. I was like, no. I thought, who is this woman? Who is this Rachel girl? No, leave them alone. And it wasn't really, I don't really think that, like, they had any feelings. No. I don't know, like, did they have, it's been years since I read Percy Jackson.
It's been ages. But also, that's the other thing, is love triangles often pit people against each other, and that is not what we're about.
No, especially not females hating on females. We don't like that in books. It's 2021.
Completely.
Feminism. Yeah. That's on feminism. Like, could you imagine?
That's on feminism.
We don't like females pitted against each other in romance trope, and that's on feminism. Imagine if, like... Sorry, I just randomly thought. Imagine if there was, like, a love square in...
Oh my God.
In Twilight, like... They just added another female into the mix, and there were like two females pitted against each other. Jesus, could you imagine?
That would be... Honestly,
like
I feel like...
turned for a minute. That'd be crazy. That'd make it even more interesting.
It would make it so much more interesting. I just feel like it's overdone in the corner department, and I'm like, give us some spice.
Yeah. Who else do we not like? I really feel like we've mentioned most of the couples on here. Like, obviously, the Katniss Peter Gale love triangle. No, we didn't like that.
Oh, yeah, literally.
Tessa Will Jem from the Infernal Devices. We don't like that. Well, no, I didn't like it. I knew I wouldn't. I had my favourite, and I stuck by my favourite the whole time. And I still stick by it. The thing is, we know who we want. With that one, we know who we want to win. But I just love the other character so much that I'm okay with it, because it means we get dialogue with him. No, because the thing is that annoyed me about the love triangle between Tessa, Jem and Will is that one of the characters, I know she didn't like him. That's the thing, I knew. Oh, yeah. I knew she didn't like him. We knew who she was going to pick, and that's what I don't like. I knew she was going to pick the person she picked. I'm trying not to spoil you, and it's hard, but I knew she was going to pick the person she picked, because how could you not pick that person? And then I thought, you've led him on for no reason, because I know that you're going to pick him, and you know. That's the problem. Yeah, and I found that with Stalking Jack the Ripper. Yeah, Stalking Jack the Ripper, like, Audrey Rose, and know who she's going to pick. Yeah, obviously. Because if she didn't pick the other person, I'd have rioted. I wouldn't have read the rest of the book series. No. And I'm like, you're stringing this other poor boy. I mean, he's not innocent, but... No, but he's not innocent, but he's just perfect. Like, the person that she had is just the most angelic... We love him. Oh. Boy in the world. And I thought, how could you do that to him? And she did it as like an experiment. She was like, oh, let me see if I can play with people's emotions. That was just not it. The third Stalking Jack the Ripper... Audrey Rose. The third Stalking Jack the Ripper book, I have issues with that book, because it just ruined me emotionally, so... Oh, it was a hard one to get through. I was like... I love the first two with my whole heart. I mean, I love the whole series completely. But the third one, I'm like... Whew. Yeah, it was extra painful. Yeah, that's another book series we recommend, Stalking Jack the Ripper. Absolutely. By Carrie Maniscalco. It's very good. We both really loved it. So, yeah, and that's got a bit of, like, romance and a bit of drama, so definitely give it a try. Yeah, obviously you've got Bella, Jacob, Edward. We already spoke about that. Yeah, the classics. Yeah. Jace, Clary, Simon. We've also sort of touched on that. But yeah, these are the classic ones, and we do not like it. We're not fans of that. But if you are a fan of a love corner, we're calling it a love corner now. Yeah, it's a love corner. A love corner, then good on you. But it's not for us. And you know what? I am judging you for it. I'm not redacting that stint. I'm trying to judge you for it. But if you're an actual fan of the triangles, if you're an actual fan of triangles, literally DM us with why, because I
need to know.
But if it's a legit triangle with all the corners joined, then we stand you. If you like a fluid triangle, we stand. But the corner,
if there are any more books with that, definitely let us know, because I need more of that in my life.
Yes, if you actually know some legit love triangles, send them our way, because we are going to be reading the shit out of them.
Love. So I think we've gone on about love triangles for a little bit, so maybe we should move on to some other tropes. These are just a few that we noticed. Like, they're not the big ones. I think the big ones are love triangle, friends to lovers, enemies to lovers, and star-crossed lovers. Those are the big 4. But these are some others that we've noticed, and we just wanted to mention because, like, we have to.
Yes. So you've got the pining to lovers, the classic pining to lovers. It's one person is in love with the other person, but the other person doesn't see them. They don't see that they're in love with them, so they're just blissfully oblivious to the fact that this person's so in love with them. But then something happens and they go, oh, yes, I see you too, and you've always been there, but I've never noticed you before. And that's like a classic, like, romance trope. Like,
that is in the Lunar Chronicles. There is a couple. I don't know if we can say who they are, because it is a bit of a spoiler.
No, don't say the couple, but there's a couple in there that happens. So if you like that, then read the Lunar Chronicles.
I loved it so much. Like, I didn't think I would be someone who loved pining to lovers, because I'm not usually someone who loves pining, but I do love romance, and I love the kind of idea of romanticising someone and then meeting them and then not exactly what you thought they were.
It's like the classic...
But then you fall in love with that.
Yeah. It's like the classic fan meeting celebrity type thing.
Yeah.
It's like you're adoring that you're fawning over them. So it's like a sort of like meeting a celebrity crush, and then you're like, oh, I love you.
It's an ex-reader. Yeah.
So that's why I think it's quite relatable, isn't it? Especially to nerds like Deadly and I, and obviously you guys, because you're listening to the nerdiest podcast ever, you little nerds. But like, it's like if we ever met like our celebrity crushes, for my personal pet, like the person that I'm in love with, especially at the moment, is Aaron Taylor-Johnson. If I ever met Aaron Taylor-Johnson and he wasn't with his wife, I would definitely
in another
be
world,
like, oh, I'm in love with you, and then he would be like, oh, I don't know who you are. You?
Yeah, literally.
But then hopefully, in some twist of fate, he might throw his coffee on me, and then I go, oh no, and he'd look into my eyes and be like, I'm in love with you, and then that's like, you were pining for them and then turned into one of us. That's the best example I could think
I love this fanfic. When are you writing this fic?
Yeah, if you want to read that, then let me know.
And then I found that the Night Circus is a kind of a different version of it, because both of the characters really admire the other character. I'm not going to say who, because it is a major spoiler. But like... And they keep doing things to, like, impress and show their love for the other character. But then the other character thinks it's a challenge. So then they do something else. And it keeps building and building and building.
That's a really cool, different way of doing that trope. That, like...
It's so good.
They admire each other. That's sort of a bit like what we were saying about, like, an enemies to lovers. It's like a challenge.
Kind of. It's like, thing is, with Night Circus, it's very interesting because they are two characters that are pitted against each other, but they never meet each other.
Oh, okay.
Until, like, way down the line.
Okay.
So they both build up who the other one is.
Yeah, like, almost.
But then... Yeah, and like admire each other's work, and then realise it's their opponent, and they're like, "Oh, why am I admiring this?" Oh, I love the Night Circus so much.
That sort of happens.
It's so good
in Dark Shades of Magic. In the second,
I need to read that still.
Yeah, there's like a bit in the second book where there's like a competition. Two of the characters are like undercover. They don't know each other. They don't know they're going against each other, and they're like, oh, they're good, and then it's like similar to that. That's a really good series.
Yeah.
I love A Darker Shades of Magic, so by V. Schwab. You should definitely read that. It's so good. That's like classic YA fantasy. I can't believe that you've not read that, Deadly. It's amazing.
I know. I need to get on that.
I need to read The Night Circus. So
yeah,
I'll definitely pick it up.
It's just like my blend of like just romance, just like really beautiful romance mixed with such a gothic like setting, because it's all in a black and white circus, and all the guests have to wear a splash of red, and just aesthetically it's I'll
definitely give it a read. I've had it for years, so I'll give it a go. Another romance trope that's kind of a classic, obviously. This is the one that everyone... So I've seen it a lot on TikTok recently.
It's a bit spicy.
The one bed trope, and that's... That's where like two characters end up having to like share a room somewhere, and there's only one bed. God forbid there's only one bed, but like the tension has been building up for chapters and chapters and chapters, and it's like they now have to share this one bed. And what will happen in this one bed? Maybe there'll be a cuddle in the middle of the night, or maybe it'll be much more. We don't know, and that's the thrill of it. That's why the trope is a classic. Who knows? It's a classic. Will they? Won't they?
Yeah, completely. It's such a trashy trope, but I love it.
Yeah.
Literally. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, like ACOTAR, Six of Crows, Serpent and Dove. They're all like classic series that have that trope in. So if that's something you're interested in, maybe pick up those books. Yeah.
I think especially with something like Six of Crows, where it's two characters who at that time hate each other or are on different sides, and then it's like, we have to huddle for warmth. It's like, ooh.
That's sort of similar in Serpent and Dove, that they're enemies. And I should have really mentioned Serpent and Dove earlier on for the enemies to lovers, because that's like a classic.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, like it's like a witch and a witch hunter. So it's a classic.
This is why it's been on my list for so long. Yeah. Oh my
god. But yeah, there's the one bed trope in that. It's spicy, but I say spicy. It's not that spicy, but it is a bit spicy.
It's paprika.
Yeah, it's a jalapeno spicy rather than like ghost pepper spicy. Yeah. Should we go on to the next trope?
Yeah, let's. So our next one is the second chance, which is kind of an interesting trope. I don't really know how I feel about second chance. How do you feel?
Yeah, I quite like it. It's almost always older. I don't know if it's like very prominent in YA. That's the thing. We mention it because it does happen sometimes in YA, but it's always the older characters in YA. So. Like a parent figure, they get a second chance with like a lover, or a character who's grown older and they've been reunited with someone. Yeah,
they reunite again. So I do like it. I love a good reuniting.
Yeah, so do I. Really like, cute. Finally they get to be together and have a happy life. I wouldn't necessarily read it if that was the main plot of the book. But I like it. It's like a secondary character type of trope. I definitely enjoy that more, but I wouldn't read a whole book on it, I don't think. That wouldn't be my go-to.
No, I feel like that would be heartbreaking.
Yeah, it would be heartbreaking.
It would just be so slow.
It would be a bit like... Yeah, like a fucking tragic film or something. A bit like Love, Rosie. If you've seen the film Love, Rosie, or if you've read the book Love, Rosie, that's sort of like a... second chance book where they get to be together when they were younger, and then later on in life they get to be together. I do quite like that trope.
It's cute. One. It's cute. Yeah. It's a nice one, but yeah, definitely not for main characters, I guess, unless it's like later on in another story.
Yeah, and then you've got the classic slow burn. You know what? We've said slow burn as a separate one, but I also think that you can mix it with a lot of the other tropes. So you could have a slow burn enemies to lovers, which is elite. So that's like an elite combo.
That is what we want. Yeah, oh my god.
Slow burn enemies to lovers, where like the tension builds over time. You can have a slow burn friends to lovers. Don't know why you want to read that, but
drag it out.
You could read it. Yeah, it's like a slow burn. So slow burn, if you don't know, means it happens slowly. So it happens over like 4
over
books.
Time.
Yeah,
you really have to put the work in. I feel like
put the work in, but the payoff is immaculate.
Like I feel like the main tropes are like the spirits, so like the rum, the vodka, and slow burn is the Coke.
The mixer. Yeah, the
like,
mixer.
Yeah. So you can have the different flavours, but as long as slow burn's there, it's going to be good.
Yeah.
It's going to be good.
I agree.
Yeah, no, I love a good slow burn. And I always feel like you earn the romance at the end. Like, even with Throne of Glass, because I was so I read Throne of Glass after ACOTAR, so I assumed it was going to get saucy very quickly, but it didn't.
Yeah.
It was a long road to get saucy. And it felt like we earned it. It was so much more worth it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you definitely. I love a payoff. I love the payoff of a slow burn.
Oh yes.
Like there's a lot of classic slow burns. I'm not going to say names because it is spoilers. I'm trying to be good.
Yeah, it's major spoilers.
I know.
We're trying.
I hate spoiling it for people, but there's like lots of different types of things. Like, I guess this isn't. I'm not gonna. You know what? If things have been out for a while, like Harry Potter or Percy Jackson, I don't feel as bad about giving spoilers. Because I'm sorry if you don't know what happens. Where have you been living?
Since we were literally
children.
Fetuses.
I know. So like Percy and Annabeth is a perfect example of slow burn. I mean, obviously they knew each other from they were kids. See, we've really, really, really messed up saying that we didn't like Friends to Lovers because Percy and Annabeth are perfect.
True, but they're slow burn. This is what I'm saying. Yeah, see, if you add slow burn.
True. But I did earlier, I just said like, slow burn, Friends to Lovers, why would you ever like that? And I've just gone, perfect example is Percy and Annabeth.
2 minutes later, eating your words.
Because I just don't think of them, because it's not like the classic Friends to Lovers in that way. They have like adventures. No. They have a fucking high-paced adventure, like, romance.
That's the thing, the romance isn't the main part of their story.
Yes.
The romance is added on to their adventure. No.
Yeah. I eat my words. I am sorry. I did slack you off earlier for liking it, but now I've gone and said that I like it. So really, joke's on me. But yeah, like
all the clown emojis.
Percy and Annabeth, it's like took them about 5 books, but they were children. Oh my God. They were like 11.
Yeah, they were literal children.
Yeah, you've got like Ron and Hermione as well. They're like perfect slow burn.
Which I don't know. I guess I just. With Potter now, I just kind of shut it off. I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
But like, actually Ron and Hermione does work.
I was going to say, if you say you don't like Ron and Hermione, that's going to break my heart. Because I do
yeah, I love Ron and Hermione, actually. The real slow burn is Harry and Draco, and let's be real.
Drarry, I ship Drarry. 100%.
I'm still mad that they didn't make Albus and Scorpius date, because imagine how long game that would have been.
Don't spoil it.
I mean,
well, okay, fairs. They weren't ever going to get together, but what can you do?
Yeah, I mean, it's JK. What do you like?
Joanne. Joanne.
Like, she's not going to give us what we want.
No, she'd never. But, it's like it's funny because this is sorry me going off on a tangent because everyone's talking about the Marauders on TikTok at the minute, and I've been a Marauders fan since I was 13.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh my God, I really want a Marauders TV show. I'm like, yeah, you're saying this now, but we're not going to get Wolfstar. So really, do you want a Marauders TV show? Because do you want to see straight Remus and Sirius? Because I don't.
Oh my God, no,
Gross.
Not what we want.
She would never give us Wolfstar. So what is the point?
And it would be like a CW show.
Stop it! It'd be like Riverdale.
It will, literally.
I'd rather die. I'd rather die than watch that. But what can you do? How did we get onto this? I'm sorry, I'm lost. Okay,
yeah, we're pulling it back. Okay. So really quickly, we also want to mention some non-romance tropes. This could be a whole episode in itself, but we just want to touch on some because we feel like we'd be remiss to not mention them. So the first one on our list is just token diversity. So we actually do want to mention that when we talk about diversity in books, we realise we didn't mention this in the last time when we were talking about the books we were looking forward to in 2020. I am really passionate about... Oh my God. Calendar, what is this? I'm really passionate about LGBT representation in books because I am a member of the LGBT community.
And I am a woman of colour, so if I talk about diversity from a race point of view, I feel like I have the right to talk about it because I am part of a minority. Yeah, I'm half black, so I'm mixed race. So yeah, that's where it comes from. It comes from a place of experience rather than opinion.
Yes. Completely. We have informed opinions because we're both members of minorities. So it's kind of like that's what we search for when we're looking for books. It's important to us.
And when we give our opinions on slavery and things, it's not because I'm like saying this as a white woman. I'm saying it because I have an opinion on it.
Completely. Yeah, we just wanted to mention that because we realised we didn't, and we were like, oh,
yeah, and you can't see us, so we thought that would be a very good thing to mention, just in case you didn't know. But a segue from that is a non-romance trope that is very interesting, that is always seen in YA fantasy. To be honest, most things, not just even books, like TV shows, is the token diversity mention. Mm-hmm. It's the gay best friend. It's the black best friend, the Asian best friend. Yeah,
just the token member of the friend group that's not white.
The stereotypical roles that they play. So the black best friend is in like if they're a man, they're athletic. They are like really good athletes, or from like a woman's point of view, they're like the healing. Okay, they're from a world where they have to women are healers, so they are I don't know. That's another one in Sarah's books. She always seems to make all the women of colour healers.
Yeah.
Where does that come from? I'm sorry. I guess because if you think about it, you have, for example, here in the UK, a lot of the people that work for our National Health Service, if the nurses and the carers, they're from minority backgrounds, so I assume it comes from there, the fact that she did that. But that's another thing that happens. It's the token diverse character that's in a stereotypical role. That's just it's tiring. It happens in a lot of things.
Completely. And it's the same with LGBT characters. There's always the gay best friend who gives them makeovers, who talks to them about boys, who says the scandalous things, and it's it's tiring just to see yourself represented as a stereotype constantly. So, and also just having one thrown in to try and just get points. So just have a pass away comment have a character that acts straight the whole time. Be but in the past he also slept with guys, and then just move on. And you're
we know that
okay.
That classic. If you know, you know. That's from a certain book series. And it's we mentioned this in the last episode with the LGBTQ characters, that they throw in a character who's LGBTQ, and it's they make a massive deal out of the fact that they're LGBTQ rather than it being a natural a natural thing, that because it is natural. So I don't know why they make such a massive deal out of it. It just irritates me
completely.
It's exhausting to read.
Having the only character point for those characters to be either a stereotype or it's them coming out. I'm give us more.
Give us a healthy relationship, please.
Hollywood and a lot of writers view coming out as the big pinnacle of a LGBTQ person's life, and it's that's the beginning.
Yeah, it is the beginning.
That's when it's we don't want to hear the story of them struggling to get to this point and then it ends.
Yeah, it's an important, empowering thing that people go through, and it's really important to have moments where you relate to. But I'm sorry, it's been done a few times now. Can we move on with it? No offense.
Literally.
I'm not saying trying to invalidate it, but it's
I think it's really important that we tell these stories because it does normalize it, but also I don't want them all to be that that. But it builds it up to these young people's heads that coming out is such a big thing when it shouldn't be.
I'm not part of the LGBTQ community, but I am an ally. But from my perspective, it's sort of, when I watch it or read stuff, it comes across as that being, you've done that and now it's easy. That's what it sort of comes across as.
And it's not.
You get to that bit and then it's that's the best, that's the biggest, hardest part, but it isn't. And I know that from observing like people in real life, I know that isn't the case, and I feel like it romanticizes it a bit, which isn't healthy.
Completely. It's like, oh, now you can run off into the sunset and whatever. And I feel like it's probably the same with POC characters and them always referencing slavery or hardship of some sort. Like,
nothing angers.
Why?
Nothing angers me more than when we're reading fantasy, and they make like people of color oppressed, and then they're like slaves. And I think, oh Christ, really? You did that in a made-up world? Like, you didn't have to. You could have just made everyone equal. Like, go off.
Like, you have made this world, and you choose to include slavery.
Yeah, and it's like not even when people, like, if people of color wrote that, then you're like telling stories like our ancestors, and like you're talking from our experiences as people of colour. But it's when like white people do it, I think, no. So I think we mentioned it before when we read The Deathless Girls for our book club.
Yeah.
It's about travellers, and they're like women of colour, so they have like dark skin, and they're described as being like having dark skin, and they're like made into slaves, and it made me so angry. I thought, oh, brilliant! So you've got two women of colour who are the main characters in a YA fantasy book, and you've made them slaves. Brilliant, well done. So then I googled the author, and she was white, and I was like, I can't be bothered. Like, I don't want white slavery books. And like, it's always a massive deal about them breaking out of chains. I'm like, no one asked for this. Like, we want to see normal circumstances where like women of colour can thrive. And they are badass. We don't need them to have to get over slavery to be that. Like, white people don't have to do that. So why should women of colour? It's always the same. It makes me angry. But
literally, it frustrates me that all like white girl stories are like, I'm a princess, I don't want to be, so now I can be a badass. And then people of colour, it's like, I'm a literal slave.
Yeah, like here's we'll put you in like a camp where you're like slaves and you like eat dirt. And then you've got to overcome that. It's like, they overcome being a slave, and they have to overcome that as well.
Everything else.
Yeah, but like if a wife is like, oh, I'm that, and then I'm going to that, where it's like, sorry, I'm doing hand gestures, you can't even see me. It's like, you break out of your chains, and then you have to save the world. Whereas with like, white characters or Caucasian characters, it's like, I'm in a place of privilege already because I am white, even though there's no need to be in a place of privilege because it's fantasy. But then I'm like, I save the day because that's what I have to do. Whereas it's like, I
overcame being a girl, and it's like, no, that's not what we want.
And to be honest, I know like to be honest, like we mentioned Sarah J Maas like having like she has their stereotypical characters like with healers, but at least it's not like anyone's calling. I'm saying this, I don't know. No, like, nobody's like, oh, calling anybody a slur or anything in her books. Like, no, it doesn't... No one... You don't look at them and think they're beneath me because of their skin colour, and, like, I will applaud her for that, I guess, but, like, in other things, it does happen.
Definitely. It's just frustrating. And, like, it's getting much better as more authors come onto the scene and more people are more aware. And I'm just excited that all these kids growing up now will have YA to read that's so much more diverse.
Yeah, definitely. Like I've got a few books that are on my shelves that are from like written by women of colour and have women of colour as their protagonists, which I'm really excited to read this year. And we have some LGBTQ inclusive books that are coming out this year that we're really excited to read. So we'll definitely recommend them when we get around to them. But yeah, that's another like token diversity. That's the trope.
Yeah, that was a very long way of saying we don't like that as a trope.
Yeah, we like the diversity, but we want main characters.
Oh yeah,
we
don't want it as like, oh, give me points because I put this character in. We want you to actually just put characters in because that's how people are.
Yeah, that's what normal people are. So do it that way.
Okay.
Next trope.
Our next trope is the chosen one, which I feel like is so YA. Like, that is literally the pinnacle of YA, is the chosen one. So characters like Harry Potter, Throne of Glass, Percy Jackson, Shadow and Bone, Aragon, His Dark Materials. It kind of... Oh my god, Aragon. Aragon's supremacy in this house.
Yes.
But I think actually a good, because I feel like everyone and their dog watched His Dark Materials. Hopefully, if you didn't, go watch His Dark Materials. But Lyra is a great example of a character who is like this chosen one character who's fated to, like, as she has prophecies about her, same as Harry has prophecies about him, and it's kind of like this character doesn't even know that they're so revered by the world, and the world is like wanting to see what they're going to do. And yeah, Aragon too. That kind of, but Aragon is interesting because it takes the chosen one in a very different direction.
Yeah, Aragon's a bit darker, but that's it's a very fantasy. It's like a really deep fantasy, like classic. But the author was, so we don't know anything about Aragon because it's kind of old now. Aragon was written by an author called Christopher Paolini, and he wrote Aragon when he was 15 years old. Which is phenomenal. The book's fantastic to be written by a 15-year-old. It's really good. The world building is fantastic. And
incredible.
So that's sort of what makes it YA, that he was so young when he wrote it. So it's quite childlike, but it is quite dark. It's not like Throne of Glass or ACOTAR in the respect that it's quite like a classic YA type thing. It's quite Lord of the Ringsy.
Yeah, it's like fantasy.
Fantasy, yeah.
But it's so good.
Yeah.
Oh, Aragon.
Yeah, we love Aragon. Just read Aragon and then we'll do our Aragon episode and you can appreciate it more. But yes, we need to carry on.
We do. We always run over. So, next character, which is kind of like the opposite of the chosen one, is the underdog. Yeah, the
underdog. They fight tooth and nail to get to where they need to be. It's like characters like Feyre, Katniss, Triss, Cinder, Jude. Like we mentioned Jude earlier, she's fighting her hardest because she's at a disadvantage because she's human and she's in a world of
she's
fae.
Human, yeah.
Feyre, she was human with a load of fae again.
Yeah.
Katniss, she was thrown into the Hunger Games because she was poor and she didn't have any training and stuff like that. Triss, sort of the same. She was kind of timid. She'd come from like a background where they don't
do anything. Like they
didn't do anything. They just
value themselves, or
then they turn out to be like heroes of the story when no one would have thought so. Well, obviously we would, but other characters in that book wouldn't think that they were.
Definitely, and like I love rooting for an underdog because
we love an underdog.
Oh, we do. We just love an underdog, and it's like that classic. I think on our list is Cinder, which is kind of like a modern retelling of Cinderella, but very different. And it's that kind of, this character has the heart to be right there at the top, but just their circumstances mean that they're not, and so you just want them to get there, and you want them to like succeed, and it's great.
Yes. So the next one is like a classic, The Dead Parents. The parents are dead. Is it really a YA fantasy book if your parents are alive?
No, completely not.
I can't really think of one where both parents are alive. Like I literally physically can't think of one.
I'm trying to think. No, me neither. Not at all. Are there any?
Percy Jackson. That's kind of like middle grade.
But his dad's like off. Yeah,
it's middle grade, so it doesn't really count. But
completely.
Triss. Ew, I can't even talk about Divergent, so I have no idea what happens in Divergent anymore.
She leaves them in like chapter 2 anyway, so it's not like...
They may as well be dead. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like it's such a... No, I'm literally racking my brain. None of them have both parents, or they're orphans, or their
parents snuff it halfway through the book.
Yeah, that's like
a killer.
Their motivation.
Yeah.
It's honestly, it's like every good D&D backstory. No one has any parents.
Exactly. If you write parents into your D&D campaign, you doing D&D right.
And it's I just think we just wanted to mention it because obviously it comes up a lot.
Yeah, obviously classic. I don't even need to give any examples because it's every single book.
No, it's every book completely. And even if they do have both parents, they don't know about it. Like, yeah, I was going to say something, but it's a spoiler. Yeah, our last trope of this episode, because we've been rambling for a while, is the hidden beauty trope.
The hidden beauty trope is a fucking classic. Like, oh, I'm so ugly. Oh, God, I wish I wasn't so plain. Oh my gosh, I wish I was a natural beauty. And then, like, they roll in to breakfast, not even the slightest bit of makeup on, roll out of bed, hair's a mess, and like every single boy in that room's head whipped round. And oh, she's the most beautiful person I've ever seen in my entire life. And they're like, who, me? And I'm doing it now to Deadly over FaceTime, but they're doing Debbie Ryan when they look down and they look up at the camera and they're like, who, me?
Oh my God.
Who, me?
This is
no, not me.
A performance.
And then this is normally followed by a love triangle. So you've got two boys fighting over one girl. So, for example, Katniss, she was skinny, starving, so plain, oh my God. Then Peter and Gale both obsessed with her. The whole of the capital in love with her. Everybody just obsessed with her because she's so beautiful. Then you've got Feyre, starving, gaunt, ribs on show. I'm just so fragile, I'm starving, I'm so ugly, my hair's so flat and gross, I'm not pretty, I'm a tomboy, I'm not a girly girl. Then like three
I'm not
Fae,
like other girls.
Yeah, like three Fae are like fighting tooth and nail to get like a piece of her, and I'm like, oh okay, yeah, you're really ugly, you are. It's just, yeah,
honestly. Oh, and it's always they're like, oh, I'm so skinny, then they get to eat and they're like, oh, I'm pretty now, and I'm like, really? Is this how it happens?
What, one bite of bread? Because... oh, I'm stunning.
Literally, by that time, I love bread, so I should be absolutely queen of the earth. But yeah, no, it's a very funny trope because you can literally see it coming from a mile off.
If they say in the first chapter, there's nothing special about me, I'm plain, they are stunning. They're drop dead gorgeous.
Yeah,
and when
they
make a film
a walking saint.
So, like, obviously, in the Hunger Games, like, it describes her as being gaunt and nothing special, and then they, like, cast Jennifer Lawrence. And you're like, oh, yeah, really ugly. Gross.
Literally. And, like, Alina, she's like, oh, I'm nothing special. And I'm like, you're literally godly.
Beautiful. I know. Then, like, the Dark King's like, damn, girl, let me get a piece of that. And I was like, oh, yeah. And then, like, Nicola's like, ooh, absolutely. The Apparat's like, definitely, absolutely, 100%.
Not the Apparat. No, not the Apparat. You know the Apparat is my weakness. Oh, the Apparat kills me off.
Evangelista.
She's out there in a diaper, and they would say, "Sancta Alina, you're beautiful." Oh my God. We shouldn't be allowed to talk about Grishaverse ever.
I know, the whole of Ravka's like, yeah, Sancta Alina, you're so beautiful.
What did you say that Heimlich from Bugs Life? Oh my God, okay. Ooh.
Wow. Now we've got all the tropes out of the way, let's talk about the book of the month. Deadly, you go first.
Woo! Okay, so as I mentioned, I literally finished 5 minutes before recording this, maybe? Not even that. Aurora Rising by J. Kristoff and
Amy Kaufman.
Yes, I always get her last name wrong. Honestly, how can I describe this book? It's like I was not in a sci-fi mood, and then I started this book, and now I'm in a sci-fi mood. It's YA in space. It's incredible characters, that kind of underdog feel as well. It's diverse, it's interesting, it's heist. Funny as there's a heist. We love a heist. I listened to it on an audiobook, and I was laughing just listening, and it's so funny. The audiobook also is fantastic. They have a whole cast, and they got all the people playing characters to be different ethnicities to match the characters, which is fantastic. They've got sound effects. The final few chapters, when characters are crying, the voice actors actually cry.
Wow.
I was like, oh, this is emotional. I was on the beach like, I'm not going to cry right now. But it was a ride. It literally was like an audio play rather than an audio book, I would say. And it, absolutely pick up Aurora Rising, and I'm ready to read the next book. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I also love Aurora Rising. I recommend it.
You recommended it to me a million times.
Yeah, so I recommend that as well. But my book of the month is A Court of Silver Flames. I haven't read it yet. I am reading it. Like I said, it only came out yesterday. I haven't read any of the books this month. I'm going to be honest.
It's been a month.
It has been a month. I have not been in a reading mood, which is very unlike me. But I feel now that this book's come out, I'm definitely going to get back on it. And next month I will have a massive long list of things for everyone to read. But A Court of Silver Flames, it's the fourth one in the A Court of Thorn and Roses series. It follows a character called Nesta, who is the protagonist's sister, and Cassian, who is one of the background characters in the first three books. And it just kind of goes into detail about their relationship and the struggles that they're going through. And if you haven't read A Court of Thorn and Roses, it's staple YA fiction.
Yeah.
So
like Sarah J. Maas is like a massive in fantasy at the moment. You can't go anywhere. Massive.
We recommend reading it. It's a staple, and you'll definitely understand more about what we talk about on the podcast if you do. But yes, that's the book I'm reading this month, so I will let you know what it is. I think we might be doing an ACOTAR, A Court of Silver Flames episode.
Yeah, so keep an eye out. If you're feeling fey and frisky, we might give you a little treat. But yeah, so that's kind of our book recommendations for the month, and we hope you've enjoyed listening to us ramble about tropes and get way too passionate.
If you want to tell us your favourite tropes, please DM us on Instagram at YABasic Podcast. Is that correct?
Ooh. Yes, that is correct.
And on Twitter at YABasic16. And let us know. Tag us in your book recommendations. Maybe we'll give them a read. We always like to know about what everyone else is reading, something new. If you heard us rant about love triangles, the actual triangles, the fluid triangles, not the love corners, and you have some recommendation, I am begging you to DM us on Instagram.
Literally,
and tell
hit us up.
Yes. But other than that, we hope you have a good week. We hope you have a good month. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, see you next time. Bye.